Don Mazzella here for Small Business Digest. We have an interesting guest with us today who's going to talk about cold pressed juices, and amongst other things, and health, which I know is on everybody's mind. So, without further ado, Leslie Zinn, we welcome you to the program.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Leslie, as we ask all our guests, first, tell us a little bit about your personal background, and then about your company, and finally a website before we do anything else.
Okay. So I have what some people would say is a colorful background. I grew up in a family where the mantra was be the best. You know, my father got his PhD in Princeton. My mother graduated college at 19. So, you know, just somewhat of overachievers. And the first decade of my life, I followed protocol. I skipped a grade. I was a very good competitive gymnast. But around 12 years old, my parents got divorced and I kind of fell off track at that point. And by the time I was 20, my father had brought me home from college in Boston because I was basically just partying 24/7. And towards the end of my 20th year, I ended up in short-term drug and alcohol rehab. And I did such a good job in short-term rehab, I got sent on to long-term rehab in New Jersey, where I signed in for 90 days. And 3 years later, I came home. So not exactly your prototypical CEO journey, but it served me well. It taught me a lot of things. I learned how to suit up and show up no matter what. I learned how to make my bed every morning, and that's how you start your day off on the right foot. And I came back to Atlanta. I re-enrolled in college, graduated in 91. And after working in marketing for a couple of years, I wasn't really that inspired. So I thought, let me go back to med school where I can have an impact on other people. And so I went back to college to get my science classes. I had been an economics major. And so in the process of this happening, my mother started Arden's Garden, which is the cold pressed juice company that I run today. And after interviewing with med schools and seeing how hierarchical it was, I just didn't feel all that comfortable. My mother was growing the company the company was growing by leaps and bounds, but when you sell 100 to 1,000, that's an enormous growth. We were very small, and she wanted me to come in and help her. So in 1995, I joined her and my brother to help launch Arden's Garden. So that's how I got here.
Okay.
Do you want to do that all
over? Well, let's stop right there and ask a question. What's your company all about, Arden's Garden?
So our company is predominantly a cold pressed juice and smoothie company. But in the last 5 years, we recently ventured out into some plant-based foods. So we're expanding a little bit, but the bulk of our business is in cold pressed juicing.
Stop. Now you're looking down.
I'm looking okay, I can look up at a camera, but then I won't see you.
Okay. You don't have to see me. My mug ain't worth remembering, but
it's good because then you get some, feedback to what you're.
You're doing a terrific job. I just want to make sure that people hear you, because if people see you looking away from the camera, they're saying, "What are you doing?" They focus on that rather than what you're hearing. And that's what I want to make sure that you do. Don't worry. Right where you are right now is where you should be.
Okay.
Okay. You know, when you said a cold press in your release, I don't know what cold press means before we go any further.
Sure. So cold pressed is a method of juicing where you take a sharp blade and you cut a fruit or vegetable with this blade and you turn it into basically mush. So if you're making apple juice with cold pressed, you make apple mush, and then you put the apple mush into a filter bag where you have a hydraulic press that squeezes it. The reason that it makes a superior product is heat is never introduced into the process. And so all of your nutrients remain intact, and enzymes and all the things that make us healthy, glowing individuals.
Okay, so let me understand. You have two. Your traditional was fruits and vegetables, and now you're into I call it artificial food. I'm sorry. I'm old fashioned. Uh, um, but, but this new wave. So, what's your role in the company?
I'm currently the CEO, but let's backtrack a second. You think that we're making artificial food? I didn't quite understand that.
It is a slip of the tongue. To me, meat is meat. You know, I go to these natural food shows, etc., and I test the product. Um, and to me, the worst thing about them is that they're so overly seasoned to disguise some of the taste that by the time it reaches me, well, it doesn't take. It should taste like beef, and it doesn't. It should taste like milk, and it doesn't. So that's what I mean by artificial.
Ah, I understand. You'll have to try our product because, first of all, you'll know every ingredient in something that we make. So, for example, one of our most popular juices is pineapple, apple, ginger. So, what do you think the ingredients are? Pineapples, apples, and ginger. I think you're familiar with all three of those ingredients, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But
So, yeah, it's different. It's different with what we're making. Everything is made from whole foods.
well, but for instance, you don't make a beef, do
No,
you? Okay, so all yours are basically fruit or vegetable based. Am I hearing you right?
everything is plant-based. Yes, but it's not just, you're right in what you're talking about. A lot of plant-based foods right now are, let's say, fake meat, right? Or
Mhm.
fake cheese. And maybe they don't taste exactly like the original, but we're promoting a whole food plant-based lifestyle. So we want all the fiber, the way that the fruit or vegetable arrived in its natural state, because that's the way your body thrives, is having the fiber and everything else that's available in the fruit or vegetable.
Hmm. Okay, having said that, let's divide it up. What are some of your newer food offerings, and explain how they go about being made?
Sure. So we have something we just launched recently. They are upcycled crackers. So we press carrot juice, right? When you press carrot juice, you have carrot pulp that is a byproduct. So we are using the carrot pulp to mix with tapioca flour. So it's a gluten-free cracker that upcycles the pulp. Super popular. It's very delicious, and it's a way to maximize the benefit of all the foods that we're using.
How do you come up with these products?
So if it's juices and smoothies, I have an R&D team, but I do a lot of the work myself. If it's foods, I have a chef that's a plant-based chef that is absolutely creating the recipes, and we are, have all these different foods in development. But the crackers were something that he originated. They are delicious, and we're really excited to have them in the market.
Okay, for our audience, which are small business leaders, you got a new product. How do you go about introducing it on the to the industry and to the consumer?
Yeah. Well, we're very lucky. So in our market, we have 16 of our own retail stores.
Oh,
So the first line of fire is we introduce new products into our stores, and we get immediate customer feedback, whether it's something the customer wants or whether it's something the market may not be ready for. And sometimes we hold steady because the market might not be ready for the product, but we believe in it wholeheartedly. Take, for example, cruciferous smoothies. So cruciferous vegetables are the most densely nutrient foods on the planet, but we don't get enough cruciferous vegetables. Well, the easiest way to get a lot of cruciferous vegetables is to chop them up, blend them together, put some fruit in it, add some water and some flaxseed, and you have a dynamite nutrient mix. Does everybody want that? No, it's not super sweet. So we're waiting, we're educating the public, but we don't have to launch it in retail, meaning grocery, right away. We launch it in our stores and get great feedback.
well, let's you use a term. Will you define that term for me,
Which
or
term?
for our nutritious?
Oh, nutrient density?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a very important term. So when we're choosing food to eat, we should be looking at foods that give us the most nutrients per bite. So cruciferous vegetables are full of polyphenols, antioxidants, micronutrients, all the things that absolutely feed the cells in our bodies. You know, we don't eat the healthiest diet here in the United States, and that's why we're facing the health crisis that we are. So we're trying to make healthy living easy and accessible to everybody. So an easy way to do it is with smoothies.
What are some of the fruits that or vegetables that have that are like that?
That are nutrient dense?
Yes.
Okay, every berry on the planet, blueberry, blackberry, raspberry, black raspberry, strawberry, you name it, all the berries are nutrient powerhouses. Any cruciferous vegetable, kale, spinach, cabbage, bok choy, all of these things are just amazing things. And then if you add in beans, mushrooms, onions, they are things that we should have on a daily basis in our diet.
Well, I would think that fruits like blueberries and raspberries would give a sweetness to such a product. But yet you say
they do, but when it's water-based, so the kale is somewhat a little bit bitter. So the strawberries, we also add bananas because that's the sweetest fruit, but you're getting the whole fruit. And so it's sweet, it's palatable, but it's not pineapple juice. Pineapple juice is delicious and there's nothing added to it. It's just pineapples, but it does have a high sugar content naturally. And a lot of people don't want that. So we're making it, we just lower the sugar content by using water and we sweeten it with the fruit.
Your website for people that want to learn more?
Yes, it's ardensgarden.com.
Can you spell it out for our audience?
It's ARDENS garden.com.
Well, now let's get back. You said with your mother, or you joined your mother, and you said you 100 became 1,000. But how do you get up to 16 stores?
So we opened 7 stores in the first 14 years of being in business, and we opened 7 more in the 15th year because juice became very, very popular in 2014, 2015. And then when we opened a few more stores after that, COVID hit our retail stores kind of hard. So we had a couple of closures. At one point, we were at 18 stores, and hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have our 17th store open and we'll be back in business.
Well, but how did you get to the first 7 stores? I mean, what did you do?
So the story behind Arden's Garden. So my mother always wanted this one juicer called a Norwalk. And the juicer cost $1,500. This is back in 1963. She couldn't afford it. She says someday. Fast forward 30 years. She still wants this Norwalk, only now it's $2,200. She says, I don't want to go my whole life without this amazing juicer. So what does she do? The all-American thing. She gets out her credit card. She buys the juicer. And to make herself feel better, she calls all her friends and family and says, I have this amazing juicer. I want to use it. If you want juice, I want to make it for you. Now, remember, there's no money changing hands. My mother's currency is health. So all she wants to do is make everybody healthy. So a health food store opens in her neighborhood and they hear about her and they say, hey, come to the back of our health food store. We'll give you the produce, you make the juice, and we'll split the sales. And my mother thinks this is a home run because she's not making any money. So off she goes to the back of this health food store. But if you see a Norwalk juicer, it is a very, very slow, labor-intensive juicer. There is no company on this juicer. So what does my mother do? She recruits her free labor, my brother and I, and we come over to help her. And my brother takes one look at that juicer and he says, Mom, there is no company here. I will buy a real cold press, a commercial cold press, and I want to be CEO. My mother says, you can be whatever you want to be. But after about 9 months, this is 1995, even selling through the health food store, nobody knew what cold pressed juicing was. We were not selling a lot of juice, and sort of as a last ditch effort, we asked our mom to go out into a part of Atlanta that's very well known and try to sell the juice. And my mother decided to go to hair salons. And that decision turned our whole company around, if you can say that at the time, because hairstylists are stuck in their stations. They always have cash from tips. They like things that are new and trendy, and they always have a new customer in their chair. So in 3 weeks, my mother was selling 3 times the amount outside of the health food store as we were. And so we outgrew the health food store. My brother lived in this neighborhood called Virginia Highlands. We found a retail space. We rented it. We were manufacturing in a retail space, which is awful because you don't have floor drains or water. And we were sending people out to hair salons to sell our juices. And we just grew organically, you know. We went to Kroger one day. We asked the manager if he would sell our juice in his store. He said, I don't know, let me see your operation. And he literally followed us out into the parking lot, down the street to our little juicing palace. And he saw us juicing there. And he said, if you give me a cooler, I'll put it in my store. And that was our very first wholesale account. And that was in 1995, beginning of 96. We just slowly grew one wholesale account at a time, and then we opened up so by the time we outgrew the retail space, we were selling enough juice out of that store to keep it as a store. And it wasn't in a business plan. It was just organic. And it was a great decision because it's always kept us very, very close to our customer. So did we ever have investors? No, we never had investors. Whatever money we made, we put back into the business.
Is your brother still in the business?
He is not. No.
Well, you laugh about it. What
I'm not
happened?
laughing about it. You know, my brother was CEO from 95 to 99. In 1998, my brother came to me and he said, I don't want to work with you anymore. We don't see things the same way. And I was very surprised because I thought we were the greatest of partners. He was great at things that I was terrible at and vice versa. But I had been working really, really hard in Arden's Garden and I did not want to leave. So we ended up going to family business counseling for a year. At the end of that year, the counselor came to us and said, I think that Arden's Garden would be better served with Leslie leading the company. So we got the company valued. I bought him out in 1999 and it was a very difficult transition.
All these years later, you know that I've had 3 or 4 recent shows about families in business together.
Yeah.
Have you been able to mend your relationship with your brother?
No.
Hmm. Hmm.
No. There have been periods of coming together in the 20 some years that I've been running the company, but no, it was very, very hurtful to our relationship.
Let's stop there. Your website again for people?
It is ARDENSGARDEN.com, ardensgarden.com.
Well, yeah, this is extremely interesting for me, an interesting interview. What's happened to your mother? Has she still with the business or?
My mother was with the business until she died in 2020, but my mother got Parkinson's. And after about, I would say 5 years of having Parkinson's, she retired for the company. So, but she was with the company from its genesis up until about 2015. Her entire passion, vision drives the company to this day. Surprisingly, I have become my mother, which is shocking because I found her devotion to health and wellness. She was feeding my brother and I the grossest combinations when we were kids. And she just was devoted to health her whole life. And now I've picked up her passion and her legacy and I'm carrying it forward. So she's with me every day.
Well, now the next question is, do you have a succession plan?
So my daughter, who is 22, has started working in the company. She also has her own story with health and wellness. And so she is picking up the baton. She's definitely not ready to take it over, but it is my hope and dream that she will carry on my mom's legacy.
That's very interesting. We have just a few minutes left. I'd like to ask you, what advice would you give your audience, given your experiences in life?
I think that life is a whole lot simpler than people give it credit for. I think that you have to suit up and show up every day, do your best. I think that people that provide great customer service, not because they're trying to provide great customer service, just because they believe that's the way things should be done. I can tell so many stories of things that I was rewarded for 10 years later. For example, we used to supply, we supplied Publix here in Atlanta with something called DSD, which is direct store delivery, right? And one day, 10 years later, I got an email from Publix from a guy asking me, he asked me to call him, and he basically said, I used to be a produce manager in Atlanta, and I used to stock your product, and I remember the quality of your product and your customer service, and I want to know why you haven't grown with Publix. And I said, I would love to grow with Publix. Well, now he was my category buyer. And so all of a sudden, I was no longer delivering to each store in Atlanta. I was going through the distribution center to 600 stores and then to 1,200 stores. And I just was able to grow through previous quality work. So you may not get rewarded today, but if you're consistently producing and being someone that people that can depend on, and for your customers, we have such loyal customers because we have consistently provided a quality product for now 28 years. It's a long time. You just have to keep doing the next right thing.
Do you still enjoy the job?
I love the job because I'm super passionate about health and wellness. I'm telling you, I've become my mother. And I used to reject my mother. It used to drive me crazy, all the stuff that she was into. And now I have become her completely. So I love it. I'm so passionate, because we have our retail stores, I get to see our customer on a daily basis. I see people making strides to improve their health and change their lives. It's so inspiring. I was just in a store today, and 2 people came up to me and told me how grateful they are that we're in their community. And one of them was like, I'm wearing this vest, She said, I would even wear that vest. Not only is it cute, but I would just want to promote your company. Come on. Money's money, but that's really valuable.
Well, we got to say, Leslie Zinn, this has been, to me, a very illuminating time. Thank you.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.